What's up everybody, Darkomitiv here. Welcome to the next chapter of this tutorial. Thank you for sticking in for so long. So in this chapter we're gonna go over modeling, UVing, texturing, actually sculpting the sign. I'm not sure if I'm gonna show the texturing because for the sign I basically took the bridge shader that I created, the wood for the bridge, and I just assigned it to the sign and I repainted the masks for the frost and that was basically it. So I wanted to create these signs because they will be like cool little details, but I wanted to make them really detailed. So making two of them, two different, would be of course waste of time. So in honor of previous models that I did, I'm gonna do the same thing basically, where I'm gonna just make one sign and I'm gonna use it twice. So I'm gonna use the exact same geometry. I'm gonna sculpt it on both sides, and I'm gonna just flip it and position it on the tree which is next to the bridge. With that in mind, I will go and texture it in Painter. I will add the decals, which means on one side of the bridge it will say North Pole, and on the other side of the bridge it will say Santa's house, crossed with Rudolph, tempering on it, which we'll talk about in a bit. Basically, yeah, just reusing a lot of geometry, trying to be clever, trying to be fast, and same thing as always, export the UV layout, do the fastest UV in the world, and then just quickly jump to Zbrush and just have some fun, because we all want to go in Zbrush and have some fun, right? No one wants to do the boring UV part. Anyhow, for this thing, because I already indicated where I want my main creases to be in my topology, I had like very good time in Zbrush, just basically breaking up the edges, making the wood a bit worn out and old, and just adding little cracks, little dents here and there. And because this was very close to camera, I decided to give it the love and attention that it deserved, because it's practically a hero asset at this point. It's very close to camera, yeah. So this is the only wood texture, wood part of this image that was actually sculpted. Everything else was textured procedurally or in Painter. For the rest of the wood on the house, I actually did UV them in UV layout, and then I took the same shader that I created for the bridge, assigned it to the house, changed the hue saturation, made it a little bit darker, and then added just replaced the frosty ice mask and just repainted a new one for that. So that basically did it for that assets. Didn't have to go to Zbrush and do any sculpting whatsoever. So here I'm just using just a couple of brushes in Zbrush. Basically most of the work was done with standard brush, the Dame standard, for all the cuts and creases, and then trim dynamic. The way I like to work is I have all I have 8 main brushes that I use in Zbrush all the time, and I cannot live without them. So because I'm coming from a Mudbox background, for those of you who didn't know, I started using Mudbox way before Zbrush. And in Mudbox, all of the hotkeys for the brushes are on the numbers of your keyboard from 1 to 9. Basically, and so when I started learning Zbrush, it was just overwhelming. The software was massive. Although it was really cool and really fun, using it in production, it was really hard for me. So I basically said to myself, okay, let's just stream down the pipeline, stream down the workflow. What do you do in Mudbox that you can do in ZBrush, but better? So basically, I noticed that when I'm in Mudbox, I'm really fast because I memorized most of the brushes because they're just mapped to the keyboard. So all I did is, first thing that I did basically is I found how to set up hotkeys in ZBrush, and I mapped all of the brushes that I commonly used on the same hotkey that correspond with Mudbox, which means standard brush is 1, move brush is 2, etc, etc. So my Damien standard is 3, clay brushes are 4 and 5, 6 is my pinch, 7 is my inflate, 8 is my trim dynamic, and that's basically it, and 9 is autosave. So just having that, having those hotkeys, it helped me a lot. It sped up my workflow dramatically, and I didn't need to go and customize ZBrush too much. Although at this point in time, I do have a custom menu where I have some of the menu buttons that I use all the time, like backface masking, AccuCurve, topological, this kind of stuff, polygroup, morph targets, stuff like that. I have them, revealed in the main interface. So if you guys interested, if you want to take a look, or if you want to get my interface, just put it in the comments down below, and I will share it either on like Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that. I'm just gonna, or Gumroad maybe even. I'm just gonna get it out there. And maybe in some of my next tutorials you will excuse me, you will see my interface, and if you decide that you like it, feel free to comment it, or just send me a personal message or something like that, and I will make sure that you guys receive it. So playing around with noises, I stored a morph target and then applied basically a noise. I just tweaked the curve a little bit to make the wood like really old and like dented, and then going with the morph brush and erasing it in places where I basically didn't want it to have that kind of detail. It's very, very old but very useful techniques. Still use it to this day. Well, if something works, there's no reason why not to use it. I split my sign into 2 different polygroups, just so I can quickly hide one half of the sign, and I can work in in this little detail in between the boards, and I don't have to worry about destroying the details on the other side. And then all I did for the snow is I duplicated the subtool, moved it up ever so slightly, and then I dynameshed it, and just took all of the snow on the side and just sculpted it in, so it only appears on the top part. And because we already sculpted a lot of little holes and dents and details, the board itself is serving as a Boolean object for the snow. So all I had to do is just break up the edges, make them a bit rounder, and then just took the clay tubes brush and just scraped away the snow from the front and the back side, because I knew that in Substance Painter I'm gonna do some decal work. So that's it for the 3D part. I hope you guys liked it, and see you in the final chapter.